Here in Philadelphia. Let's go down to Columbia, South Carolina, where I have undefeated junior welterweight Elijah Seawright, who takes on Xavier Martinez this Saturday night live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, a Christy Martin Promotions card. Elijah is promoted by King's Promotions. This fight can be streamed live on bxngtv.com. Elijah, what's happening?
How's it going? How's it going, Mark?
Doing good. You have a very interesting story. You're an 18-year-old fighter, and not that 18-year-old fighters turning pro is a big deal, but most of the guys who are 18 years old who turn pro that early have extensive amateur careers. You've had about 10 fights. Talk about the decision before we get into everything with the fight Saturday, the decision to turn pro so early.
It wasn't relatively early. When I first started fighting, I was 14 years old, and throughout those 14 through 17,
your voice is cutting in and out a little bit, so maybe get a little closer. Or
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Throughout 14 through 17, when I was going to fights and out the nine fights, there was a military base called Fort Jackson Military Base. So I would go up there, and they would call them smokers. They're like not necessarily amateur fights, but you go up there and you fight some guys that are in the military. So I did 13 of those. In between me fighting 10 times. So throughout that, I was getting a good bit of work in, going to different gyms to spar, and get some good work in. So once I graduated high school, I was either going to go straight into college and wait for boxing, or go straight into turning professional. And I just went ahead and turned professional since I was 18, relatively young, so I can build my way up. So that's all I'm doing right now, building my record up, and then ready to get right.
Being 18, also, like I said, with the brief amateur career, you have the ability to take it slow. You don't have to jump in there, almost like an extension of your amateur careers. Is that the way you kind of look at it a little bit?
That is how I look at it. That's how I look at it. I have a lot of time being professional, so just building that record up and getting seen by a lot of other people, motivating people, and having people look up to me while I'm boxing and even outside the ring.
Speaking of being seen, obviously you're now signed to pretty good promoter, top promoter, King's Promotions, and Marshall, who's a real boxing guy, signed you after I believe seeing you in some sparring sessions with some good fighters. To talk about that.
Yes, so he had us come out to Pennsylvania, and he wanted to see how I was working. There were some sparring videos, but he wanted to see it in person. And the first time we sparred, I sparred this Puerto Rican kid. Correct me if I'm wrong. I forgot his name, but he had over 40 amateur fights, and he was getting ready to turn pro. He was a great fighter, beautiful fighter. And I sparred with him, and then I sparred with another guy. I forgot his name. He had about 15 professional fights. And then the next day, I sparred one other guy that did bare knuckle boxing. And that last day, he was impressed with me. The first day was, working my way through, and then the next day, once I ramped it up and had that sparring, he was pretty impressed and went ahead and signed me.
Now, how does that make you feel? Like I said, Marshall's a player, good player in the business, and he saw something in you.
It feels great, man. I'm blessed. I've put countless hours of work, training, eating right. There is not a time where I'm not in the gym. I call the boxing gym my second home, because I'm always in there working and looking at videos and striving to be one of the top fighters.
So now you turn pro. You in your first fight, you get a third round knockout over a fighter named Roderick Gilkey. Last fight, Malik Ray, knock him out in the first round in 1 minute. And, so far, so good. From what I understand, I haven't seen either of your fights yet, but from what I understand, you have kind of like a different type of style in there.
Yeah. Once I adapt to my fighter, fill him out for about the first 30, 45 seconds, I adapt depending on how they move, depending on how they punch, and especially if they have footage on them, like Xavier Martinez. He has one of his professional fights on YouTube, and I've been looking at that and kind of getting the look of how he fights. And I've been studying his work, and I also have been working. I know how to use my reach to an advantage, and I know how to use my angles. So I should be good for this fight.
This is your third fight in South Carolina. Talk about the boxing scene down there.
Boxing is, I would say, it's not as active as, let's say, if I was in Pennsylvania or anything like that, but it's good enough work. There's a lot of gyms that I could go to spar and get work, and people coming down. Not too long ago, I would say about 2.5 weeks ago, there was some people from Virginia that came down, and we all met up at one gym, and we got some beautiful work in, some great technical sparring and great intense sparring. And I feel like it got me ready for this fight coming up. But there is good competition here, but ready to get the show on the road.
You sure you're just 18? You seem a little wise beyond your years here.
I'm definitely 18. I turned 19 in July.
Have you heard that before, that you present yourself as, I guess, an older gentleman, I guess, or no?
Yes, sir. I definitely have. And I try to speak and to use my words. And there have been a lot of times where I've spoken in front of many people, in front of my school, outside of school in Kentucky, Washington, D.C., talking to senators. So I've had a good bit of experience talking to people.
And it sounds like you're a popular guy. I hear all this pinging in the background. So you must have like 100 people trying to hit you up as we're doing this.
No, it's our camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, before we jumped on the call, you were telling me about the last couple weeks of your workouts and stuff. In terms of being able to cut weight, you told me you have a different way of going about it. Tell us about that.
Definitely. So I have a strength and conditioning coach named Paulie DeTuro. He was in the Special Forces, a great guy, and he works with elite athletes, and figures out our body, figures out what we eat and how it digests in our body, and also strength-wise. A lot of newer boxers, he was telling me, have a lot of muscles in the front, but not a lot in the back, which messes up their posture, which throws off how they have snap on their punch. So we work on technical different parts of my body that I can use as an advantage for pop, power, and torque on my punches. So we work on that a lot. And as far as dieting, he figured out how certain foods digest with my body. And his wife is a health nutritionist. So all of that ties into how I eat, what time I eat, and how everything works in my body. And they got that down, and I cut weight easy. I feel amazing. I feel strong, and I'm just ready to fight. Have you been doing this since your amateur days, or did this just start as a pro? Started as a pro, yes, sir. Amateurs, I was pretty good, but once I started traveling more and fighting and sparring a lot, like my weight has gone up, but there's ways where I can cut that unnecessary weight down. So I was walking a little heavy, and I can cut down easy where it doesn't mess up my body, because I'm also still growing. I'm 18 years old, but I cut down to enough where I'm not destroying my body. Obviously, you're fighting. You're campaigning at 140. You fought your first couple fights, 142, 143. I assume that means you're going to campaign as a junior welterweight. But I guess over the years, you're probably going to fill out. Do you see yourself welterweight, super welterweight, middleweight? Is that
we're having this conversation 10, 12 years from now. Am I talking to a middleweight? Am I talking to a junior middleweight? Or, you know?
However my body pans out, I've been as high as walking at in the 160s, but I will be fighting welterweight after this fight. This
Gotcha.
fight will be at this fight will be at 145, but I'll probably weigh in at 143, 144. And then I would love to go up to about 147 to 150.
So, I mean, because I was under the assumption that'd be you know, usually you take these early fights, you're a couple pounds over the limit. I thought maybe you were a 140 fighter. Is that something?
No, sir. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you never thought that you were 140. You thought strictly you were gonna, you know, be a welterweight earlier in your career.
140 would be pushing the limit of cutting weight, which is too dangerous for my body. I wouldn't be 100% by the time I fight. So 145 was the best, as of right now, was the best weight to cut to.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
What do you want to tell the fans out there in closing before we see you Saturday night live on BXNG TV, Christy Mart Promotions, you know, live on BXNGTV.com?
I just want to thank everybody for streaming, for watching me have this interview. My name is Elijah, the Showman Seawright. I want y'all to embed that in y'all's brains because this is not the last time you will hear my name. I promise you that. I've been putting in work. I'm ready to fight. I'm hoping that I gained a lot of supporters after this interview. Hopefully y'all can see me shine after this.
Well, my last question always is, so to get these supporters, obviously there's a thing that's been exploding over the last decade or so. It's called social media. So where do we find the Showman on social media?
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok at the name of That's Elijah. It's THASS.LIJAH. That's Elijah.
I always tell people, why can't you just use your first and last name? It's just so much easier.
I will eventually change it. On Instagram, I have about 22.2 thousand followers.
Oh wow.
Facebook, I don't know. I haven't been on Facebook in a minute, and TikTok, I have about 520 something thousand followers.
520 something thousand on what goes on TikTok? I'm not on TikTok. I think I should start getting on it.
You just post funny things, random things. So there's videos of me boxing on there. There's videos of me just being silly, and I guess people love to watch me. So yes, sir. I've got about 520,000 followers.
Then that's quite a few. So Saturday night, come watch him live on the screen, bxngtv.com. See him on TikTok, Instagram. Hopefully he'll be coming up to Philly and getting some fights up here with King's Promotions. We wish you best of luck, and we will talk to you along the way.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right.
Elijah Seawright. There's a big TikTok following. We will see him on bxngtv.com. I don't have the followers that he has, but here's where you can follow me on Twitter at @MAbramsBoxing. There's the YouTube, Mark Abrams Boxing on Instagram, Mark.Abrams2 on Facebook, and my two big websites, 15rounds.com and Abrams Boxing. I'll be back in an hour talking with lightweight who just fought on Showbox, who will be fighting on the same card on bxngtv.com, Jeremy Hill. So tune in then, and we'll see.